Hello, I'm Tiffany, creator of Red Petal Patterns, and this is Knitting Basics for Beginners. And today I want to talk about yarn over. This is usually in a pattern as YO. I think in British terms it might be called yarn front. I'm not positive on that. But yarn over is how we make holes, planned holes. Let me rephrase. You're going to use it in lace. You're also going to use it in simple buttonholes. You can use it to make a mesh fabric. It is one of the design elements that you can add interest to a pattern. So you can add it to a row of increases or decreases on a raglan sweater to make a lacier look to the raglan part. You can add it to dishcloths. You can add it to give it more of a mesh feel. You use it in making those market bags so that they expand because they got all the holes in them. It's just a really simple, super simple technique that has so much drama. And it is very, very easy to do. In fact, at this point in your knitting journey, you have probably done it on accident numerous times. In the beginning, I had told you that you absolutely do not go over the needles when you want to transfer your yarn from front to back. You don't go over or around the needle. You want to go between the needles. And the reason being is because if you're knitting and you want to bring your yarn to the front and you realize you don't want it there, you want to bring it to the back, and you don't go between, you go over, you have created a stitch. That is a yarn over. And that is all a yarn over is. So I'm knitting along and I'm going to do a yarn over. I'm going to bring my yarn around and that is it. And then I'm going to knit the next stitch. I've just added a stitch, but it will have a hole. Unless I were to twist that stitch on purpose. Some people do their increases that way. I do not. I have already covered increases. That is not how I prefer to do increases, but it can be done that way if you go back and twist that stitch later so that it closes up. But you'll always see a little bit of a space there because it wasn't supposed to be there. The other way, let me show you what that looks like if you tend to yarn over instead of under. So I always yarn under, so my yarn over actually does this. It's a yarn under. But if you yarn over, then it's still the same thing. You're just going to go over the needle and back to the back again. And now you've got an extra stitch. Oh no, now you've got an extra stitch. Generally, yarn over is paired with knit two together. That is why decreases and the knit two together came before the yarn over. So now you already know how to do that. So I've got 2 stitches, yarn over, knit 2 together. And that is already been covered in the decreases. You can go this way, or I can turn them around and go that way, and that will change how they lean. And in a minute, I will show you why that matters. So I have my yarn over and knit 2 together. Now I still have the same number of stitches. I added a stitch, I took away a stitch. When I come back around and purl all of those and then start this row over again, there is a nice neat little hole there that is reinforced all the way around. See, there's my hole. Now I go back and just knit across. I'm sorry, there's my hole. So I can come back and knit those 4 stitches and leave this little hole. It'll expand just a little tiny bit more once the needle's not in the way. And that is a common buttonhole. Generally, when you do a yarn over buttonhole, you want to reinforce the stitch on the outside. If you want a bigger buttonhole, you can, so this would look like you would knit 1, then you would knit 2 together, then do the yarn over. When I made this one, I yarned over, then knit 2 together. And you would do it the other way. If you want your reinforcement on the outside, you would do 1, knit 2 together, do your yarn over, and then continue across your row. And what that does is it reinforces this outside piece so that you don't get a big loose saggy bump there. It doesn't get pulled out of shape. Now if you need a bigger buttonhole, you can knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together. So you took away a stitch, added a stitch, took away a stitch. So you would still have the same 4 stitches across there, and you would have a buttonhole twice as large right there. And that gets kind of tricky because you're going to end up getting a bump right here, but it can be done. There's nothing wrong with doing buttonholes that way. I would not do it more than that unless you're doing a thumb hole. This is how I add thumb holes to small items. If it was like little gloves for a little toddler, and you wanted the ones that are the wrist warmers, or if you wanted to add a thumb hole to the cuff of a sweater, you just right there that you can pull down a little and stick your thumb in so it kind of keeps your hand warm without adding an extra item. You can do the little tiny 2 yarn over buttonholes. You can change the direction that your lace will sit. Sometimes a lace pattern will call for a yarn over and knit 2 together, or it'll call for that weird slip, knit, pass, slip, stitch over thing so that it leans the other direction. The reason for this being is that you will have either a line of holes or your holes will take on a direction, and you want a knit stitch. When you do whichever place that you take away the stitch, where you do the knit 2 together or the knit 2 together on this side, you want it to look like the knit. You don't want it to have the twist or the little purl bump. So you will need to directionally change. So I'm going to do the 2 together. Generally you want them going away from the yarn over. Yarn over and knit, and then if I go back, you will see that still has a knit stitch and a knit stitch. So in knitting lace, you will have a series of yarn overs, and sometimes they will travel this way and then travel back this way and then travel this way and travel back this way, and that's an ivy or vine pattern. And you need to change the yarn over, the direction that the yarn over takes and what stitch it lines up with, but you will also need to change what direction your knit 2 together sits so that your vine always stays a nice constant smooth knit chain, or your direction of your stuff. So if you have like a leaf pattern in there, you would have your yarn overs right on top of each other here, and then you will have all of your stitches leaning this way, and then some sort of fancy thing coming around this way. And that will not do all of those proper directions, like the picture, if you don't have your knit two together going the proper direction and either before or after your yarn over, paired with whatever this detail is over here. So if they're twisted or they're going the wrong direction, you will not get that movement that you're supposed to get from the picture. But that is all a yarn over is. And anytime you do a yarn over, if you're not increasing, now if you're increasing, you're just going to do the yarn over, you're going to do the rest of your stitches, you're going to come back, you're going to purl everything, and then you're going to do your next yarn over wherever, and you've got a series of yarn overs as increases. You will have, generally though, if it's just the body of lace and you're not increasing or decreasing, your yarn over will always be paired with a knit two together of some sort, either before it or after it, so that you add a stitch and you take away a stitch. That way your count stays the same. You get that whole, that pattern in there, and your stitches stay the same count, and you end up with some sort of directional cord next to your yarn overs. And I hope that demystified the yarn over for you. I will see you next time. Bye.